도널드 트럼프 대통령이 나토총장과의 회담에서 한반도 문제에 폭탄선언을 했고 캐나다에 대해서 여전히 놀라운 발언을 하며 주변국들을 크게 놀라게 하고 있습니다. 또한 한국의 쇠빙선을 무려 50여 척 주문해야 하는 이유를 이야기하고 있었다고 하는데요. 여러 가지가 논의되었는데 특히 한국은 다음 5가지의 질문을 파악해봐야 합니다. 첫 번째, 한국과 북한 문제.
In Korea, sir, we've seen tension increasing in the peninsula. You've talked about Kim Jong-un. Do you have any plans of re-establishing the relationship you had during the first mandate?
Well, I would. I had a great relationship with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. If I wasn't elected, if Hillary got in, you would have had a nuclear war with North Korea. He expected it. He expected it. And they said, oh, thousands of people. No, millions of people would have been killed. But I got in. We went to Singapore, we met. We went to Vietnam, we met. We got along really good. We had a very good relationship, and we still do. We still do. You don't have that threat that you had. I mean, look, when I was running the first time, it looked like there was going to be a war with North Korea. You know that better than me.
Tensions were high.
Yeah, and
everybody
it started
was startled that you invited him for talks.
Right.
But you did.
It started off very rough, and he wouldn't meet with Obama, wouldn't take his calls. I said, how many times did you call? They called a lot. He wouldn't take their call. He told me I wouldn't take his call. But with me, it did start off rough, if you remember. Very rough, actually, very nasty.
There was a Singapore.
And yeah, but then, no, before that, then it stopped. The rhetoric was extremely tough. It was...
you had
it was
a speech in the UN, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. It was a little bit dangerous. And then we met. They asked for a meeting, and then we met. And the meeting caused the Olympics, which was in South Korea, to become a tremendous success. Nobody was buying tickets for the Olympics because they didn't want to be nuked. And I met, and not only did the Olympics become successful, but North Korea participated in the Olympics.
His sister visited.
It was an amazing thing. And that was something that was an achievement of the Trump administration, great achievement. And so I have a great relationship with Kim Jong-un. And we'll see what happens, but certainly he's a nuclear power.
두 번째, 쇠빙선 주문권. 미국이 그린란드를 소유한다는 의견을 말하며 한국 쇠빙선을 주문한다는 뉘앙스를 풍겼습니다. 현재 중국 외에는 쇠빙선을 만들 국가가 없기에 사실상 한국의 쇠빙선 주문을 의미하는 것인데 무려 50여 척에 가까운 것이라 주목됩니다.
Thank you, Mr. President. Greenland. What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially to...
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. You know, Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question.
An issue in the high north, so the Arctic. So what you did, so when it comes to Greenland, yes or not joining the US, I would leave that outside for me, this discussion, because I don't want to drag NATO in that. But when it comes to the high north and the Arctic, you are totally right. The Chinese are now using these routes. We know that the Russians are rearming. We know we have a lack of icebreakers. So the fact that the outside Russia, there are 7 Arctic countries working together on this under US leadership is very important to make sure that that region, that part of the world stays safe. And we know things are changing there and we have to be there.
Well, you just had an election there the other day. Do you see a referendum, a plebiscite, where the people of Greenland would be in a position to decide if they want to become part of the United States?
Yeah, it was a good election for us, as you know. It was not a referendum. It wouldn't be called that. It was an individual election. But the person that did the best is a very good person, as far as we're concerned. And so we'll be talking about it, and it's very important. Mark mentioned the word icebreaker. So we've ordered, we're in the process of ordering 48 icebreakers. And Canada wants to know if they could use them. I said, well, you got to pay for them. Think of it, Canada. We pay for their military. Canada pays very little for their military because they think we're going to protect them. But even with the icebreakers, so we're going to order 48, and Canada wants to be part of the deal. I say, you got to get your own icebreakers. I mean, if you're a state, you can be part of the deal, but if you're a separate country, you've got to get your own icebreakers. Russia, as you know, has about 40 of them. and we have one big icebreaker, but that whole area is becoming very important, and for a lot of reasons, the routes are, very direct to Asia, to Russia, and you have ships all over the place, and we have to have protection. So we're going to have to make a deal on that, and Denmark is not able to do that. Denmark's very far away and really has nothing to do. What happens? A boat landed there 200 years ago or something, and they say they have rights to it. I don't know if that's true. I don't think it is, actually. But we've been dealing with Denmark, we've been dealing with Greenland, and we have to do it. We really need it for national security. I think that's why NATO might have to get involved in a way, because we really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. We have a couple of bases on Greenland already, and we have quite a few soldiers, and maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete? So, don't answer that, Pete. Don't answer that question. But we have bases, and we have quite a few soldiers.
세 번째, 캐나다 폭탄 발언.
Thank you, Mr. President. A representative of Canada, the finance minister, are in town and will meet members of your administration during the day. Any chances that you will ban on the tariffs on aluminum and the ones that are planned for April 2nd?
No.
You are not going to change your
No,
mind?
not. Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all. Aluminum or steel or cars, we're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to. In the case of Canada, we're spending $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I have many friends in Canada. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the great. Hey, how good is Wayne Gretzky? He's the great one. But we have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine. But, the United States can't subsidize a country for $200 billion. We need their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. Anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S., just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state. But why should we subsidize another country for $200 billion? It costs us $200 billion a year. And again, we don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We have more than they do. We don't need anything. We don't need their cars. I'd much rather make the cars here. And there's not a thing that we need. Now, there'll be a little disruption, but it won't be very long. But they need us. We really don't need them. And we have to do this. I'm sorry, we have to do this.
네 번째, 현재 두려워하고 있는 유럽의 전할 말.
Now, please. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, some of our allies have said that they're worried that they could be the next to be attacked by Russia. You've spoken directly with the Russian president.
Yeah.
Do you think those fears are justified?
No, I don't. I think when this gets done, it's done. They're going to all want to go home and rest. I don't see it happening. Nope, I don't see that happening. And we'll make sure it doesn't happen. Not going to happen, but we'll make sure it doesn't happen. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Leaders from Russia and Iran are heading to Beijing tomorrow to discuss nuclear programs. What do you hope to get out of that?
Well, maybe they're going to talk about non-nuclear programs. Maybe they're going to be talking about the de-escalation of nuclear weapons. Because, I was talking about that with President Putin very strongly. And we could have done something had that election not been rigged. We would have had something. I think I would have made a deal with Putin on de-escalation, denuclearization, as they say. But we would have de-escalated nuclear weapons because the power of nuclear weapons is so great and so devastating. And right now, Russia and us have by far the most, but China will catch us within 5 years. China doesn't have, but they're in the process of building, and they build. And within 4 or 5 years, they'll probably have the same.
And by the way, this is a Republican tradition. Ronald Reagan when he negotiated with
Right.
Gorbachev in the 1980s
Right.
about bringing down the number of nuclear weapons. It's what you have been doing your first term, and it is important.
It would be a great achievement if we could bring down the number. We have so many weapons and the power is so great. And number one, you don't need them to that extent. And then we'd have to get others because, as you know, in a smaller way, Kim Jong-un has a lot of nuclear weapons, by the way, a lot. And others do also. You have India, you have Pakistan, you have others that have them. And we'd get them involved. But we started off with Russia and us. We have by far the most. And we were going to denuclearize. And that was going to happen. And then we were going to China. And I spoke to China. I spoke to President Xi about it. And he really liked the idea. You know, he'd like not to spend trillions of dollars building weapons that hopefully he's never going to have to use. And because they are very expensive also. So that would have been great.
다섯 번째, 나토와 유럽에 보내는 경고.
What Mark is saying is when I first went to NATO, my first meeting, I noticed that very few people were paying. And if they were, they weren't paying their fair share. There were only 7 countries that were paying what they were supposed to be
It's even
paying,
worse,
which
not
was,
3.
yeah,
It's even worse.
could be even worse. But there were just very few countries that were paying, and even the paying, it was at 2%, which is too low. It should be higher. It should be quite a bit higher. But you had Poland, and I remember Poland was actually paying a little bit more than they were supposed to, which I was very impressed with. And they've been actually terrific, and some of the others. But most of them weren't paying, or they were paying very little. And I didn't think it was appropriate to bring it up there, but I said it's going to be brought up at my next meeting. And my next meeting, you know, the first meeting, you want to give them a little break. The second meeting, it began, and I was able to raise hundreds of billions of dollars. I just said, we're not going to be involved with you if you're not going to pay. And the money started pouring in, and NATO became much stronger because of my actions and working along with a lot of people, including Mark. But they would not pay for other presidents, and I don't think other presidents even knew that they weren't paid. I asked first question, has everybody paid up? And literally, I mean, they told me 7. You could be right, it could be 3, but that makes it even worse. But they just weren't paying. And I said, no, I won't protect if you're not paying. If you're delinquent or if the money isn't paid, why would we do that? And as soon as I said that, got a little hit from the press because they said, oh, gee, that's not very nice. But if you said the other, nobody would have paid. And the money started coming in by the billions. And, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars flowed into NATO, and NATO became strong. But Tim Cook came in and he announced 500, think of it, 500 billion, not million. 500 million's a lot when you think about it, right? But I would have been happy with 500 million, but it's $500 billion investment by Apple in the United States. And that's because of the election result, and it's because of the tariffs and the tax incentives too, you know, tariffs and tax incentives. And I've never seen anything like it. We have plants going up now in Indiana. We have plants going up in Michigan. A lot of plants going to be planned from, I'm trying to steer them to Michigan because Michigan got so badly beaten by, you know, what happened with Europe. You know, if you look at Europe, take a look at the EU. We're not allowed to sell cars there. It's prohibitive because of their policies. And also their non-monetary tariffs. They put obstacles in your way that you can do nothing about. But if you take a look at what happens, so we sell no cars to Europe. I mean, virtually no cars. And they sell millions of cars to us. They don't take our agriculture, we take their agriculture. It's like a one-way street with them. The European Union is very, very nasty. They sue our companies. Apple was forced to pay $16 billion on a case that, very much like my cases that I won. They shouldn't have been even cases, but we felt they had no case, and they ended up having an extremely favorable judge and decision. But they're suing Google, they're suing Facebook, they're suing all of these companies, and they're taking billions of dollars out of American companies, many more than the ones I just mentioned. And I guess they're using it to run Europe or something. I don't know what they're using it for, but they treat us very badly. China obviously treats us very badly. Almost everybody does, and I blame past presidents, to be honest, because when I was president, we received so far about $700 billion from China over the years on the tariffs that I put in. No other president got 10 cents from China. And that was only beginning, except for COVID, I would have been able to finish the process. But we had to fight the COVID thing, and we did really well with it, but we had to fight. And then we had actually, as you remember, Mark, we actually handed over the stock market. It was higher than just previous to COVID coming in, which was sort of a miracle, frankly. We did a good job. But the tariffs are very important. And I think the psychology, there's great spirit. When Mark came in, he said, congratulations, there's a whole new spirit, there's a whole new light over this country, and really over the world. Because you have somebody that, a whole group of people, really, because I talk about this whole group, that we know what we're doing, and a lot of great things are happening. But I've never seen investment like this. Trillions of dollars is being invested in the United States now that would have never, our country could have failed. Another 4 years of this, what happened in the last 4 years, our country would have been a crime-ridden mess. And I don't know if you noticed, little thing they call it, but it's not a little thing if you don't have, if you like eggs and you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you remember that, your predecessor, who I thought was a very good man.
Absolutely,
actually.
yes, Stoltenberg. He sends his best
Yeah,
greetings.
he was
Yeah.
terrific. Stoltenberg, Secretary General,
Great
and
man.
he made the statement that when Trump came in, the money started coming in like we never saw before. Hundreds of billions, actually probably close to $600 billion came in, and NATO became strong from that standpoint. And now we have to use it wisely, and we have to get this war over with, and you'll be back to a normal, much more normal life. And maybe we're close. We're getting words that things are going okay in Russia, and it doesn't mean anything until we hear what the final outcome is. But they have very serious discussions going on right now with President Putin and others, and hopefully they all want to end this nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible thing when you look. I get pictures every week. They give me the pictures of the battlefield, which I almost don't want to see. It's so horrible to see young people laying arms and legs and heads laying all over the field. It's the most terrible thing that you'll ever see. And it's got to stop. These are young people with mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and friends, and it's got to stop. So we hopefully are going to be in a good position sometime today to have a good idea. We'll have, we know where we are with Ukraine, and we are getting good signals outside of Russia as to where we are with Russia. And hopefully they'll do the right thing. It's really humanity. We're talking about humanity. We're not talking about the money. But then you add the money to it, and hundreds of billions of dollars is being spent and really wasted so unnecessarily. It should have never happened. So it's an honor to have you here. They picked a great gentleman. I'll tell you, I was so happy to hear, because you had somebody, Stoltenberg was really good, and you have somebody that's going to do an incredible job. And I was so much in favor of you. You have no idea. They had another person that I did not like. I was not happy. And I think I kept him from, you know what I'm talking about. I said, this is the right man to do it. And he really did. He was a great prime minister of the Netherlands. He did a great job. And that's what he's doing right now. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And it's a very great honor to have you. And we even have some of our great energy people here today, right? We have the governor, and we have Chris, Chris, right?
Absolutely.
Supposed to be the most talented man in the world of energy, according to the governor. So I don't know if he's right. And we have General, you've been fantastic. Thank you very much. And we have a lot of good people that won't be so much involved with this, but they wanted to see what was happening. It's become a little bit of a show, but they wanted to see what was happening, and I think a lot of good things are happening. So with that, if anybody would have a question.
Mr. President, on Russia.
Please, go ahead.
So that-
Sorry. Steve Witkoff's trip to Moscow, you spoke about it. What sort of agreement do you hope he comes away from there with?
Well, we'd like to see a ceasefire from Russia, and we have, not been working in the dark. We've been discussing with Ukraine land and pieces of land that would be kept and lost, and all of the other elements of a final agreement. There's a power plant involved, a very big power plant involved. Who's going to get the power plant, and who's going to get this and that? And so, it's not an easy process. But phase one is the ceasefire. A lot of the individual subjects have been discussed, though. We've been discussing concepts of land, because you don't want to waste time with a ceasefire if it's not going to mean anything. So we're saying, look, this is what you can get, this is what you can't get. They discussed NATO and being in NATO, and everybody knows what the answer to that is. They've known that answer for 40 years, in all fairness. A lot of the details of a final agreement have actually been discussed. Now we're going to see whether or not Russia's there, and if they're not, it'll be a very disappointing moment for the world. Yeah.
Vladimir Putin just said he is open to a ceasefire, but he does still have some concerns. He suggested that you two should speak directly. Do you have plans to speak to him soon? If so, when are you confident you can get this across the table?
Sure. He did say that today. It was a very promising statement because other people are saying different things, and you don't know if they have anything to really, if they have any meaning, or I don't know. I think some of them were making statements. I don't think they have anything to do with it. No, he put out a very promising statement, but it wasn't complete. And yeah, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him. But we have to get it over with fast. You know, every day people are being killed. It's not like, as we sit here, 2 people will be killed. Think of it. 2 people are going to be killed during this little period of time. Thousands of people a week are dying. So we really don't have very much time. We have to make this fast. It shouldn't be very complicated.